When was the last time you held music in your hands? Not a phone, not a playlist, the music itself. There was a time when music had weight you could feel. It smelled like cardboard and printer's ink. You can give it to your friends. Now it weighs megabytes. It doesn't smell like anything, and you can't lose it, because you can't truly find it. Picture this. You walk into a record store, the smell of old paper and plastic, hundreds of album covers, and you have to choose one. Because you only have $15 in your pocket. That's it. You can't preview the whole album. Maybe 30 seconds in the store headphones, if you're lucky. So you study the cover, read the track list, try to guess from the titles. Finally, you buy it. And at home, magic happens. You listen from track 1 to the last, because you have no choice. And you know what? That 7th track that seemed boring at first, by the 3rd listen, it becomes your favorite. Limited choice made us more devoted listeners. We owned the music, literally. And that ownership created connection. In 1991, if you saw the premiere of Smells Like Teen Spirit on MTV, the next day at the office or at school, everyone talked about the same thing, because everyone saw it. Radio played the same 40 songs on repeat, and yeah, it was annoying. But it meant everyone, from cab drivers to college kids, knew the same hits. Going to Blockbuster for an album was a whole ritual. Sometimes it wasn't in stock, because if a major album had been out even a week, all copies were taken, and that made it even more desirable to listen to. Scarcity created value, limitations created culture, and we were all part of that culture, whether we wanted it or not. Music wasn't just sound in your ears, it was a shared cultural tradition. But then we decided that wasn't enough. We wanted more, faster, and free, and we got it. And in 1999, what you could call a pivotal revolution in music accessibility through the internet occurred. An 18-year-old student named Sean Fanning wrote a program called Napster. Not a song, not an instrument. He created a way to share music directly between users. The principle was revolutionarily simple. You installed the program, opened access to your music library on your computer, and could download tasks from other users' libraries, without money, without intermediaries. Within several months, 20 million people were exchanging music files like baseball cards. Tracks that cost $15 in stores were now free. Every song ever recorded, yours for the price of an internet connection. And a year later, as a 19-year-old, Sean Fanning appeared on the cover of Time magazine with a headline that sounded simultaneously like a compliment and a verdict. The music industry called it theft. Record labels were losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Between 1999 and 2008, annual U.S. revenue from physical recorded music products has fallen from $12.8 billion back to $5.5 billion. And on April 13, 2000, Metallica filed a lawsuit against Napster after discovering that an unfinished demo version of their song I Disappear for the Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack had been uploaded to Napster and was already playing on the radio. Metallica demanded a minimum of $10 million in compensation at a rate of $100,000 per illegally downloaded song. The band hired a company to monitor the service and provided a list of 335,000 Napster users who were allegedly sharing the band's music illegally. On July 12, 2001, Napster reached a settlement with Metallica and Dr. Dre after the major German media conglomerate Bertelsmann AG became interested in purchasing the rights to Napster for $94 million. And despite the global losses in music sales revenue in the US, for fans, Napster became liberation. But here's what nobody saw coming. When you can have every song ever made, you have no favorite song. When nothing is scarce, nothing is special. You could download 500 albums in a single night. But here's the thing, I probably listened to only 3 of them. The rest just sat there. For the first time in history, the problem wasn't access. The problem was that we were drowning in so much information we couldn't keep up with it all. And in post-Soviet countries, it was even bleaker. While the West had record stores and royalties, there were street vendors selling bootleg tapes. Nobody paid for music, because there was no system to pay into. Artists who could have been legends, they drove taxis. Because in a world where music is always free, musicians starve. Piracy didn't kill music, but it taught us a dangerous lesson. That art doesn't need to be paid for. That convenience matters more than value. That owning something doesn't matter anymore. Then came the solution. Subscription services promised to fix everything. Legal, convenient. Every song ever made for the price of a burger per month. It all seemed perfect. We stopped being owners. We became renters. Think about it. Technically, we could still download music, own the files. But why? When everything's already here, always available, for $10 a month. We stopped being owners not because we couldn't, but because we stopped wanting to. Think about it. When was the last time you downloaded a song? Not streamed it, not added it to a library, actually downloaded it, so it was yours. I think most people don't do that anymore. We chose convenience over ownership, and in that choice, we lost something we didn't even notice. A record collection used to be evidence of a life lived. You could look at someone's shelf and understand their story. Now, we all rent from the same infinite library, and when we're gone, hardly anything will remain. But the deeper shift wasn't about ownership. It was about psychology. When you bought an album, you committed. You listened. You gave it a chance. Sometimes the weird track on the flip side became your favorite. Now, we skip tracks after 10 seconds if they don't hook us immediately. We build playlists with 300 songs and never finish them. We have infinite choice, and we're paralyzed by it. Psychologist Barry Schwartz called this the paradox of choice. The more options we have, the less satisfied we are. I think everyone's had that situation where you open an app, scroll through playlists, and a couple minutes later, you haven't played anything. Not because you didn't like anything, but because it always feels like something better is waiting on the next scroll. We traded collections for access. We traded commitment for convenience. And somewhere in that trade, we lost the entire essence of true listening. But then it gets even more interesting, because we didn't just change how we access music, we changed who decides what we hear. Radio DJs controlled the airwaves. Sometimes it was annoying. They played the same hits over and over. But here's the thing, they also played what they loved. Not what an algorithm predicted you'd tolerate, what they thought deserved to be heard. That genre you'd never choose yourself, you heard it anyway. And sometimes, you hated it. Sometimes, it could change your musical taste. Radio gave you curated diversity. You didn't control it, but that was the point. Today, algorithms curate for you, and they're incredibly good at it. They know you better than your friends. They predict what you'll like before you know it yourself. Every song they suggest hits the mark. Sounds perfect, right? But except that they're not trying to expand your taste. They're trying to keep you engaged. The algorithm learns. You like indie folk, so it gives you more indie folk. You listen, it learns more, and gives you even more indie folk. A year later, your entire world is indie folk. Not because that's all you like, but because you never heard anything else. If radio was a party where someone else chose the playlist, sometimes you hated a song, but sometimes you discovered a new obsession. Then algorithms are a room of mirrors, where every song reflects you. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If we tell the machine, guess what I like, and it guessed so well, that we stopped searching ourselves. It turns out, music used to be discovery for us. Now it's optimization. Remember when everyone knew the same songs? Not because everyone loved them, but because there wasn't as much choice as now. In 1999, if you wanted to be part of the conversation, you watched TRL at 4 p.m. You knew the top 10, and almost everyone knew it. The whole country had the same soundtrack. Today though, a song with 1 billion streams on one platform is almost completely unknown to the person sitting next to you. What you consider a massive mainstream hit might not exist at all in someone else's world. Club DJs notice this first. Play a song from, say, 2012 that was played for years. Most people sing along. Play last year's hit. Half the room doesn't know it. Not because they don't listen to music, but because they listen to completely different music. We've splintered into 1 million microcultures, each convinced they know what's popular, each completely isolated from the others. The algorithm gave each of us our own personal radio station, and in doing so, it killed the one thing music always did best: unite strangers. We're more connected than ever, and more alone than ever. But if you think the fragmentation ends there, it gets even stranger. Somewhere around 2018, platforms with short videos appeared, and suddenly, music stopped being something you listened to. It became background, a soundtrack to a dance, to a meme, to someone's face. You no longer play a song to hear it, you scroll through videos, and music flashes by with them. 10 seconds of one song, 15 seconds of another. Music became disposable. But here's the paradox. Now a track recorded in a bedroom by an unknown artist can explode overnight. Catch one meme, and suddenly 100 million people are listening to your song. And it can stay that way for a whole year. Not because you're a genius, not because you have a label or a good budget, but because 10 seconds of your track fit perfectly under a video. In 1985, the Italian music project Piano Fantasia records an instrumental ballad called Song for Denise. The track comes out on an album, sells in a few stores, plays on a couple of radio stations, and disappears. Not because the song was bad, the times were simply different. To become famous, you had to get on MTV, sign a contract with a label, break through thousands of equally talented people. Piano Fantasia never got that chance. And then 40 years pass. Assuming you're watching this video in 2025. During quarantine, the internet was going crazy with boredom. Someone finds the old track, speeds it up, lays it over a video of Vladimir Putin walking with a wide stride down a Kremlin corridor. Within weeks, the video racks up hundreds of millions of views. Wide Putin becomes one of the biggest memes of the year, and along with it, that forgotten ballad from 1985. Suddenly, Song for Denise is heard by millions of people around the world. And this is where it gets interesting. You could look at this story with bitterness. The song was cut up, distorted, turned into a joke. The artist waited 30 years for recognition, and got it thanks to a meme. But there is another point of view. Music that had been gathering dust in obscurity for almost 4 decades suddenly became part of global culture. After its viral success, people started looking for the original, listening to the full version. And this is not an isolated case. Remember Kate Bush's song, Running Up That Hill? The 1985 song soared to #1 on the charts in 2022, thanks to the TV series Stranger Things. Bush earned more from this revival than in all previous years combined. Short videos don't kill old music. They give it a second chance. But let's be honest about the paradoxes. Millions of people know the melody of Song for Denise, but ask them, who wrote it? And most will shrug. Some don't even know it's a real song, not something created specifically for a meme. It's a strange form of fame. Your music is everywhere, but you're almost invisible. And this raises a question. What matters more to an artist? That people know their name, or that people hear their music? Yes, memes have changed the rules of the game. Today a song can blow up not because it's objectively better than others, but because 10 seconds of it fit perfectly under a dance, or a joke. Can you call this a lottery? Absolutely. But here's what's interesting. This lottery is open to everyone. In 1985, Piano Fantasia couldn't upload a track to the internet himself, couldn't promote himself on social media. Things were different back then. He depended on the decisions of people who said yes or no. Today, any musician can upload a song, and it has a chance. Small and unpredictable, but it exists. Now, when it comes to short formats, yes, songs are getting shorter, intros are shrinking, the hook has to appear in the first 3 seconds, otherwise, you get swiped past. But look at it from another angle. The short format isn't the whole experience, it's more like an invitation. Someone hears 15 seconds of a track on TikTok, likes it, and goes to find the full version. Shazam reports record numbers of song searches originating from short videos. A meme isn't a replacement for music, it's a new channel for its distribution. And of course, how can we not mention artificial intelligence? Today, AI can create a studio-quality track in 30 seconds. And yes, since we're talking about neural networks, the voice you're hearing right now is also generated. Let me explain. Behind this video is one person, a student who spent weeks gathering material, writing the script, editing footage, and trying not to lose his mind from the number of browser tabs open. All of this is the living work of a living person. It's just that this person doesn't have a studio microphone, a soundproofed room, and honestly, the voice of a narrator with 20 years of experience. But he has ideas and the desire to share them. In a way, this is exactly the democratization we're talking about. In the past, to make a quality video essay, you needed a team, a scriptwriter, a narrator, a sound engineer, and editor. Today, one person with a laptop can create something that used to require an entire studio. The neural network here is a tool. We can't stop progress. We can only decide how to use it. So, where were we? Thousands of new songs are uploaded every day. There's more noise than ever. But remember history. When musical notation appeared, people said it would kill live performance. When records appeared, most said they would kill concerts. When radio appeared, they said it would kill sales. Every time, music didn't die. It evolved. So what does that leave us with? The story of Song for Denise isn't a parable about how the internet devalued art. It's a story about how a melody, created with love, can find its audience 40 years later, through a strange path, through an absurd meme, but find it. And maybe there's a certain beauty in that. We live in a world where a forgotten track from 1985 can become a global phenomenon in 2020, where grandma's favorite song suddenly ends up at the top of the charts, where music travels through time in ways that were impossible to imagine before. Formats change. Methods of distribution change. But if music is truly good, sooner or later, it finds its listeners. Algorithms changed the way music spreads, and technology will change it 100 more times. New platforms will emerge, new formats, new ways to listen. But music isn't about technology, it's about us. About what we feel when a melody hits straight to the heart. About how music is the only language everyone understands. Formats change, music remains.